was a week-long event, hitting its climax within the November 24th to 27th, when the global community attended the 2021 edition of Festschrift conference in the beautiful city of Abuja, principally to honor the leader and chairman, National Peace Committee of Nigeria, former head of state, Federal Republic of Nigeria, General Abdulsalami Abubakar retired, Grand Commander of the Order of the Niger, GCON. The conference proper was preceded by a mocktail party, popularly referred to as a cocktail, and delegates as well as other distinguished friends of the People's General were hosted to a sumptuous dinner on the first day of arrival, during which the key celebrant personally took the opportunity to move round to appreciate his guests.
He was our host all those years that we were in Liberia, because he was ECOWAS representative. You're welcome. How are you? From Liberia. He helped us a lot during our life.
Don't listen to him. He helped us. And I had to come.
It's a pleasure. Yeah, I am delighted to be here. My name is General Abdulsalami Abubakar. I have got an institute called Abdulsalami Abubakar Institute for Peace and Strategic Sustainable Development Studies. In the wisdom of the institute, they have decided to hold this Festschrift in order to discuss all my peacekeeping efforts, and at the same time they brought in scholars to discuss the role of African leaders in trying to solve African problems. And this evening they decided to host us to this mocktail, so this is why I'm here.
I feel very, very happy and elated that it's a prelude to the activity tomorrow, which is honoring my husband. So, of course, I'm very proud.
Well, this is just the beginning of a 3-day Festschrift, which is a meeting in recognition of the role that General Abdulsalami Abubakar has been playing around the world in mediating conflicts. I had crossed his path in 2 of those conflicts, working for the United Nations in Liberia and in Darfur, Sudan.
I think I feel delighted that the Festschrift conference, which we have been planning since 2009, has seen the light of the day. It's a conference that will showcase the mediation activities of His Excellency General Abdulsalami Abubakar. After leaving office, he felt that there is a need to give back to humanity, and he has been involved in peace mediation within the ECOWAS sub-region and at the continental level.
Indeed, the Festschrift conference featured a volume of scholarly writings by various authors, presented as tributes for a man generally described as a mediator and a bridge builder, for his scholarship and service to the continent in particular and the world in general. Born on June 13, 1942, General Abubakar succeeded General Sani Abacha as the Nigerian head of state between June 1998 and May 1999.
After all necessary consultations, government has decided that the election of a civilian president will be held in the first quarter of 1999. The new elected president will be sworn into office on the 29th of May, 1999. The period in between is to provide for the eventuality of legal adjudication and or runoff in the presidential election. These 2 possibilities cannot be discounted in view of the multiple number of parties that may be registered. All the existing 5 political parties are hereby dissolved, and their assets will be taken over by administrators who will be appointed by government. Similarly, all previous elections conducted with the dissolved parties as participants are hereby cancelled for their widespread lack of credibility and acceptability. This administration, given its deep insight into what destroyed the credibility of the last exercise, has decided it will not interfere with party formation and the electoral process. Justice will not only be done, it will be seen to be done. To this end, the National Electoral Commission, NECON, is hereby dissolved with immediate effect. A new independent electoral body will be established with the necessary enabling law to replace NECON.
The opening session was quite engaging as different speakers extolled the sterling leadership qualities of General Abdulsalami Abubakar. The moderator of the session, Professor Muhammad Kuta Yahya, set the ball rolling.
I'd like to take the privilege and the liberty as the moderator of this very important opening session to welcome you to this very important gathering, which is for me a singular honor and privilege of presiding over such an important occasion as a moderator, particularly in this opening stanza. I feel highly honored and indeed gratified that finally the occasion of this Festschrift is finally here. It is a special occasion dedicated to assemble people across the globe, especially in the entire African continent, in honor of one man, General Abdulsalami Alhaji Abubakar, GCFR, CSG, former head of state, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The director of Abdulsalami Abubakar Institute for Peace and Sustainable Development, organizers of the Festschrift, Dr. Diamond Nebechukwu, was on hand to welcome the delegates.
Your Excellency, the Executive Governor of Niger State, Alhaji Dr. Abubakar Sani Bello, Your Excellency, Hajia Dr. Amina Abubakar Bello, the First Lady of Niger State, His Royal Highness, Alhaji Dr. Najib Hussaini Adamu, the Emir of Kazaure, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. It is with great pleasure and gratitude to Almighty God that I will welcome you all to the Festschrift Conference in honor of the founder and initiator of AAIPSDS, His Excellency General Abubakar Abdulsalami.
An event of this magnitude that attracted such high caliber of dignitaries from all walks of life across the globe speaks volume of the personality of General Abdulsalami Abubakar. Retired Major General Ishola Williams gave the reasons for the impressive attendance.
The whole idea of the Institute was started because General Abubakar then, after his retirement, decided to go into looking for a way to bring stability to a very conflict-ridden continent. The continent is still conflict-ridden. It's even worse now, and it's crying for help. And it was then decided that, unlike what you find in the past, Africans don't write their stories. In fact, we should change history in Africa to our story. And therefore, pass on knowledge, ideas, and skills from one generation to the other. Our own knowledge, our own skills, our own experiences. And that's what brought about the creation of that institute as a platform, as an opportunity, as a place, as a chance to pass down this knowledge.
As the saying goes, behind every successful man, there is a woman. Therefore, it is not an overstatement to say that the success story of General Abubakar as an accomplished soldier, head of state, and indeed a global citizen would not have been possible without the active support of his amiable wife, former First Lady of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, former Chief Judge of Niger State, Her Excellency, Honorable Justice Festschrift Abubakar.
He is privileged to have come from a strong family structure that includes his extended biological family and those of other social associations, some of which people grow up to see as blood relatives, not knowing otherwise. This context provided him early guidance and learning in broad-mindedness, patience, and leadership requirements. These have remained with him. I attest to this and other attributes being some of the things I saw and justifying my early acceptance of the man I married some 49 years and still counting. His innate nature is strongly inclined to responsibility for others and conflict resolution.
The sudden death of General Sani Abacha and the emergence of General Abdulsalami Abubakar as the head of state provoked many questions from not only Nigerians, but also from members of the international community. Some of such questions were: would this general maintain Nigeria's unity? Would he organize democratic elections or follow the path of his military predecessors, clinging to power endlessly?
Time is not on our side. To this administration, the 29th May 1999 handover date is sacrosanct. All members of the Independent National Electoral Commission must therefore work extremely hard to ensure its fulfillment. It is a great national responsibility.
But there was a huge surprise. General Abubakar was a different personality with a different political philosophy. Modest in the good sense of term and looking humble, the impressive general was a strong personality, a great patriot, and a visionary.
These remarks opened the floodgates for goodwill messages from presidents of other countries as well as other dignitaries on the occasion.
It is my great honor and privilege to join the Festschrift conference today to honor General Abdulsalami A. Abubakar, a distinguished compatriot, a personal friend, and a former head of state of Nigeria. The focus of the Festschrift conference is to explore General Abubakar's conflict mediation activities within Africa, including in Congo, Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, Liberia, Niger, and Sudan. These often violent and protracted conflicts had debilitating consequences on human development. I therefore felicitate with General Abubakar for his relentless efforts in resolving conflicts and ensuring peaceful coexistence across Africa.
I feel particularly honored by this initiative, which is a spotlight on the man I have come to respect as a father, a mentor, and for me, most importantly, a lover of peace whose ideology of life is simply adorable. Allow me to therefore to join millions of people today to congratulate General Abdulsalami Abubakar, the former military head of state of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, for his rare obsession for peace and harmonious coexistence of all people and races across the globe. His Excellency Abdulsalami A. Abubakar, voluntarily handed over political power to an elected civilian authority in 1999 in a rather selfless and effortless manner. By this singular authorship of civilian rule, he changed the narratives of the Nigerian state, which is today a legacy of democracy and rule of law.
During the latter part of the year 1998, I led a small delegation of the South African government to Abuja to meet the head of state, General Abdulsalami Abubakar. This was the very first time I met him. The last time I'd been in Abuja was in 1995 to meet the then head of state, General Sani Abacha. That visit was very somber, as we were visiting General Abacha to discuss the then ongoing trial of Ken Saro-Wiwa and others, and the detention of Generals Olusegun Obasanjo and Shehu Yar'Adua. Not too long in his reign, following the passing away of General Abacha, General Abubakar announced that his administration was determined that Nigeria would return to democratic rule the following year, 1999. This is what brought us to Abuja. Before he passed away, General Abacha had also promised that democratic elections would be held even during 1998. He would stand in these elections as a presidential candidate. Like many Nigerians, people in South Africa, including our government, did not believe that this would be a genuine return to democracy. From the beginning of the 1990s, Africa experienced virtually a tidal wave of democratization. This included the liberation of Namibia and South Africa, and therefore also the democratization of these two countries. It was clear that having learned from its own experience, our continent had decided to turn its back on the long period of military coups d'etat and military governments. Nigeria had made an important contribution to the struggles which led to the end of apartheid rule in Namibia and South Africa. And yet, during that period, she was governed by military regimes. Indeed, when General Abubakar took over, during its 38 years of independence, Nigeria had been under military rule for 28 of those. As South Africans, we understood very well the importance of Nigeria in terms of helping to define the future of our continent. The possibility to make good progress in terms of the socio-economic development of Africa had improved significantly with the liquidation of colonial and apartheid misrule in Southern Africa. It seemed clear to us that to play its legitimate role in providing continental leadership in this context, Nigeria would have to join the ranks of Africa's democratic countries. We are also concerned that it should not, by remaining under military rule, serve to encourage other African countries to move away from democracy. We were therefore very happy when we heard that the new Nigerian head of state, General Abubakar, had undertaken that the country would return to democratic rule without unnecessary delay. We thought we should do our best to support this return by Nigeria to democratic rule. This was why we visited Nigeria in 1998, with General Abubakar having agreed to receive our delegation.
Are deeply rooted in mediation and reconciliation efforts and practice at the family and extended family level. You will find it not too difficult to handle it at more extended or larger situations. And that is what my brother, General Abdulsalami Abubakar, had grown to experience and to practice. Apart from having learned and imbued with the practice at the family and extended family level, he handled it, and I must say very well, at the military level, where of course he rose to become Chief of Defense Staff. If we ask him, he will tell us a number of occasions that he had to mediate and reconcile officers in the military.
I would like to thank the organizers for inviting me to this ceremony, which honors a great son of Nigeria and Africa, a peacemaker, a man of peace who has contributed relentlessly to the promotion of social harmony in various conflict situations in Africa, and whose commitment has inspired the current achievements in democratic governance. There is no doubt that the leadership of these men has helped the drive for the development and integration of the continent and strengthens the mobilization for the realization of our great vision through Agenda 2063 and the Abuja Treaty of June 3rd, 1991, which carry all the ambitions of the African people. Ladies and gentlemen, the holding of this Festschrift in honor of President Abdulsalami Abubakar is relevant and timely. It is indeed important to capitalize on the great work he achieved for the promotion of peace in his country Nigeria, but also for the sub-region and the African continent. He stepped in many crisis theaters, often very complicated, where his statesmanship and his recognized wisdom made it possible to diffuse deteriorating situations and calm stakeholders determined to achieve their objectives, including through violence. In all his interventions, he showed unfailing impartiality, calm, and empathy, which earned him the trust of the stakeholders. I witnessed this in 2009 when, in my country, Niger, the then President of the Republic, the late Tanja Mamadou, may he rest in peace, decided to change the constitution when he was just a few months away from the end of his second and last legal term as head of state in order to stay in office forever. The decision came as a great shock to the nation, and many social and political forces decided to fight it, as the constitution governing the state at the time provided no legal way for such action. ECOWAS, under the leadership of Nigerian President Umaru Musa Yar'Adua, may he rest in peace, deemed that such a project was in contradiction with its protocol on democracy and good governance, and asked President Tanja to retract his decision. President Tanja, ignoring ECOWAS directives, dissolved the National Assembly and the Constitution, and undertook the process of drafting a new constitution, which led to a serious political and social crisis. It was against this backdrop that the ECOWAS Extraordinary Summit further decided on the 9th of October 2009 in Abuja to appoint President Abdulsalami Abubakar as mediator in the Niger crisis. President Abdulsalami arrived in Niamey leading a team of officials and staff of the ECOWAS Commission and started a mediation process, which was all the more difficult as President Tanja was opposed to it. Tanja Mamadou was indeed a man of high standards, very proud of himself and convinced of his exceptional qualities. He denied any legitimacy to the ECOWAS mediation and was determined to thwart the mediation by presenting it as an attempt to undermine the sovereignty of the country.
I am pleased to be a part of this great program to honor my uncles and friends, a distinguished patriot and peacemaker, General Abdulsalami Abubakar. General Abubakar is a great African leader and statesman who has contributed so much to the unity and growth of our country and continent. I'm quite conscious of the fact that no number of words from me will be enough to describe the greatness and the essence of the man. General Abubakar served the Nigerian Army meritoriously for decades and rose to become Chief of Defense Staff under the leadership of late Head of State, General Sani Abacha. In the military, he acquitted himself as a true professional and courageous soldier who showed no interest in political leadership, even in the days of military adventurism in political governance of our country. It will be recalled that even when leadership fell to him at a most crucial point in Nigeria's political history to serve as head of state and commander-in-chief, he was very swift and decisive in doing the job of restoring constitutional order and returning Nigeria to civil rule under 1 year. I can say that as a former deputy governor and governor of Bayelsa State and former vice president and president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, I'm a direct beneficiary of the democratic process General Abubakar initiated and delivered on the 29th of May, 1999.
The media is often referred to as the fourth estate of the realm. Most military regimes in Africa are notorious for their repressive policies against the press. How did the people rate press freedom under General Abdulsalami Abubakar's 12-month administration? Mr. Abu, co-founder of the defunct Newswatch magazine.
General Abubakar had to deal with all of these issues. And in dealing with them, he got a lot of support and cooperation from the press. And why did that happen? He got a lot of support from the press because the press trusted him. He kept saying that his transition program is sacrosanct. It will not be moved. There was still a bit of cynicism because all the past people had been playing games with Nigerians, moving transition program from one day to another. But Nigerians had a lot of trust in this gentleman. Why? Apparently because he had not been showing himself as a politician. Even though he belongs to the Bida mafia in the military, he never lobbied to be governor, he never lobbied to be minister. He was absolutely apolitical. So the press trusted him when he came into office and said, well, this man who had not been lobbying for political appointments must be somebody whose words can be trusted. And that is how he got the early support of the media.
The character General Abdulsalami retired. If you are asked to close your eyes and describe him in 2 minutes, what do you say about him?
Why should I close my eyes? I will shine my eyes.
Shine your eyes very well.
As you know, my colleague Chris and I, we worked with him when we were still working at NTA and I in Minaj. He's a gentleman. He has a good heart. I mean, there's no perfection on this side of eternity. We all do wrong at some point, but he's a man that means well. He wants the best for everybody, you know. We make mistakes along the way of life, you know, but when your heart is right, because God looks at the heart, God sees the heart, and when your heart is right and you want the best for other people and other people involved, that you will have leverage, and that's who I think he is. A gentleman, a soldier and a gentleman. He has a beautiful wife beside him. She's a true mother of a nation as far as I am concerned, you know. And between them, I think they do well for Nigeria, honestly. I think if we had them, you know, doing what they're doing behind the scenes, you know, and being hearkened to, some of the situations we have in Nigeria, and this is a very personal thing because I got to know them in the course of my working with them. You know, so I think he's a gentleman. He means well for Nigeria. He means well for the world, and he's concerned about things that affect the ordinary people.
And Lola Alakija, veteran journalist with the Nigerian Television Authority (NTA) boldly exhumed an age-long issue, which is very timely, in line with the theme of this conference.
I just want to ask a simple question, and don't forget I'm a bloody civilian, so I may not get the deep things that go on behind the scenes in conflict resolution. But I often wonder, why is it that the interventions that come when the wars break out or the disagreements break out don't come in the form of pushbacks against bad leadership before they deteriorate to what leads to the struggle for conflict resolution?
We've seen you've been so active in today's event. Your question was Tommy, and as a matter of fact, it took a lot of effort to attempt the question, but I'm sure they've not given you the answer yet.
I know we appreciate conflict resolution. It's good to be a peacemaker all the time, but it's better to prevent conflict if we can. So what my point is this, that these leaders that get involved in conflict resolution, we thank God that we have them, right? Otherwise, what would we do if there's nobody to bridge, to be a bridge between two conflicting parties? But my question is this: they have the same clout before the conflicts arise. They know the people involved. They are mates, colleagues, many of them, some of them seniors to the people involved in these conflicts, and they see what those people are doing. Why don't they begin to talk to them before it gets to the level where the poor people have had enough, the ordinary citizens are fed up, and then they take up arms or they begin to resist, and then we have these elders coming to try to resolve conflicts. My question was, is there something that we don't know from the outside? Because it's like, in my own thinking and training as a journalist, we can read signs and we can decide to tackle certain issues. Go and focus your light on something. Go and do a story about a developing situation so that it doesn't become a different story tomorrow. That's what my point is. And obviously, from talking to some of the participants, some of the leaders at this function has told me, is that it's a very difficult question to answer. But I think it's a simple thing. If I see you, for example, doing something wrong, and I'm your senior.
With close range.
Yes, I'm close to you. I can call you and say, listen, old boy, the way you're going, this is what is going to result. Why would I wait until the people coming behind you now get upset and begin to push at you? Then I come as some big problem solver. And from what we heard, the problems don't remain solved long term. They bring short-term solutions. Whereas sometimes, as they say, a stitch in time saves 9. And sometimes if you nip something in the bud, you can, as we have heard, do more good than if you wait for it to erupt and then you're trying to clean it up. They say spilled milk, a broken egg can never be mended. Do you understand? So that's where I was coming from.
The traditional institution plays a vital role in any government. Because of their closeness to the people, traditional rulers command a great deal of influence on the perception of their subjects about a particular administration. The Emir of Kazauri, Alhaji Najib Hussein Adamu, who was the royal father of the day, gave the traditional ruler's perspective of military to civil rule under General Abdulsalami Abubakar.
With the death of General Abacha, therefore, a plethora of socio-political issues that were smoldering beneath the surface were back in the foreground. It was at this trying moment of our history that General Abdulsalami Abubakar got the mantle of leadership of the nation as head of state and commander-in-chief of the armed forces. Shortly after that, after General Abubakar's assumption of office, my context to view his administration would change in a significant laboratory manner. My father, the 9th Emir of Kazori, Alhaji Hussein Adamu of blessed memory, passed away, and by the special grace of Allah, I was chosen to succeed him in October 1998. And to the best of my knowledge, I am the only emir that had been appointed during the time of General Abdulsalami Abubakar. I believe this experience of being both in government and a traditional ruler during the administration of General Abubakar gives me a unique perspective to discuss the transition, and perhaps that is why I was chosen for the task. General Abdulsalami Abubakar is an open-minded leader. The fact that he initiated engagements with Nadir, Jacob, the existing political parties from the Abuja era, those in self-imposed exile, as well as opened his administration to up to input from all manner of civil societies, in addition to their engagement with the international community was a very important plank of the transition. More importantly, General Abubakar is a decisive leader. Once all inputs were heard, he drew a line in the sand and marched towards an unprecedented 10-month transition. The work of his independently minded economic team, otherwise known as PIMCO, led by Malam Ibrahim Aliyu, a seasoned economist and public servant, also added juice to the generous administration and transition.
Discussions during the second session of the first day centered on conceptual issues with Professor Kyari Muhammad, Vice Chancellor, Nigerian Army University, as the moderator.
Theories and practice and its feasibility. She is a conflict analyst and a development consultant. Last but not the least is Major General Inshallah Williams, who is going to discuss crisis and conflicts in Africa, particularly the role or lack of role of heads of government as mediators.
Speakers took their turns in taking the audience down the memory lane on political issues in Nigeria in particular and in Africa as a whole, as well as the mediatory role of General Abdulsalami Abubakar in the various conflicts on the continent. The Catholic Bishop of Sokoto Diocese, Matthew Hassan Kuka, rhetorically likened the various conflicts in Africa to a scenario where two bald-headed men were fighting over a comb.
What do I mean? Bald-headed men fighting over a comb. I think almost everybody has understood the context, but it's a useless exercise.
Yes.
And the point I'm making to the conclusion that what we call war in Africa is largely an exercise in futility.
Yeah.
But we didn't come to war and conflict in Africa choice. And a lot of the wars we are fighting, including the wars we are still fighting today, are over the interpretation, perception, the legacy, colonialism that we inherited.
African founding fathers were united in their fight for independence of African countries. Their common goal was to ensure that Africa was free from colonial rule and devoid of unnecessary external interference. But post-colonial rule of African countries has been fraught with several challenges. What exactly are the causes? Professor Ehosa Osagi is the Director General, Nigerian Institute for International Affairs.
Conflicts are not independent variables. They are contingent. They depend on other variables, and those variables that explain them are what we call triggers. They themselves are not conflict triggers. In other words, people don't begin to enter into conflict because they come from different ethnic groups. It's not a biological tendency. The givings of life, are there. They help us to identify people. But those identities in themselves are not triggers of conflicts. It's important to put that there.
The legacy of General Abdulsalami Abubakar in conflict resolution has gone beyond the Nigerian shores. It is on record that the general has been on the front line in mediation for peace and security in many African countries.
General Abubakar represents
gem of African leaders that have dedicated their lives to the pursuit of peace in the continent. The credibility, neutrality, objectivity he has demonstrated over time has been responsible for the goodwill and trust he enjoys among parties to conflict. This, he said, counted for why, even in the midst of concerns over the roles of key institutions such as the African Union, AU, the UN, and so on, to opt for a mediator like him. There is no doubt that General Abubakar, as a peace builder, has become a key example of what it takes for a leader to make positive impact on peace process. Despite his age at 79, wow, he has continued to be a rallying point for us in the continent and in search for durable peace and security and stability.
What role did General Abubakar play as a mediator in the cases that I know, Liberia and Niger? He was allowed to constitute a team, so he chose his team. Apart from people who were seconded from ECOWAS, in which Mrs. Pierre Akpegba is going to talk about his own side, and all the devil advocates who work in that committee. And also, what's also very, very, very important is that if you cannot maintain communication with all the parties involved in the conflict, you are not going to get ahead. Now, this is where the issue of language comes in. So if you send somebody to Mali, for example, I don't speak Bambara or French, you are useless from the word go. In mediation, if you can get involved in somebody translating something to you, you cannot understand the nuances of the language. And it's very difficult for you to be able to understand the both parties. So language, understanding culture, and everything is important. Fortunately, the two areas or the two countries that he was involved in is sort of fitting. He has to set ground rules. In both occasions too, that was the case. And the two parties too accepted. He had a style of being able to talk to the both sides. Because if you just sit down at the round table with them and say you are discussing, you can't do all that. You have to find a way to talk to various parties, their leadership, individuals, and so on, which he did very well. And it was like a big brother, and he was taken like a big brother to the old people there, and like a father to the young ones there. So he had that environment.
Seeing, they say, is believing. Alhaji Sani Suleiman Atu, the personal assistant of His Excellency, General Abubakar, saw it all and presented an eyewitness perspective.
The peculiar things he used in mediations to win the attention of the conflicting parties are finding common grounds between the government and then the warring factions. He did that, I think, in Niger. Inter-Congolese dialogue. His Excellency former President Botswana Ketumai was appointed in June 2001 as the facilitator of the Inter-Congolese political negotiation, which was designed to lead a new dispensation in Democratic Republic of Congo. President Masare emphasized that use of subcommittees that will concurrently deal with key areas, namely constitution, electoral, military, and humanitarian development. And to chair these committees at that time requires eminent personality that can command the respect and confidence of Congolese. Based on this, President Masare looked at His Excellency General Abdulsalami Abubakar fit and worthy, and appointed him in June 2001 to head the military subcommittee to work out the modalities of integrating, transforming, and then restructuring of various fighters, combatants, and Congolese army into National Defense Force. His Excellency accepted and termed it a worthy challenging task that will help fellow Africans in search of peace. The dialogue lasted for about 8 to 10 weeks from August to December 2001. Having done that again, see, another thing came again. He has to come to Liberia. The ECOWAS Mediation and Security Council 2003 nominated him.
During the period under review, many ECOWAS countries were engulfed with internal conflicts and civil wars. Therefore, ECOWAS and regional conflict management also attracted the attention of the participants. The Director, Political Affairs, Department of Political Affairs, Peace and Security, ECOWAS Commission, Dr. Remi Ajibewa, presented the lead paper.
I was accompanying him to both Niger as well as Liberia, and then the other time of recent with my president. I don't think I can say much now, but I will put it in a theoretical framework and my personal experience with General Abubakar, especially while we were in Liberia and Niger. We all know that the nature of conflict in West Africa is dynamic and characterized by various precipitating conditions, especially the struggle for democratization, economic development and transition from unconstitutional change in government or electoral process, among others. So my paper examines the important role that mediation and preventive diplomacy plays in mitigation of political conflicts in West Africa. It contends that the advantages of preventive diplomacy mediation are evident in its ability to save lives and avert avoidable expenditures on rebuilding and reconstruction efforts. That's why this day we said it's better to have what we call ECOWAS network of Electoral Commission of Member States than having ECOMIC, because the latter is much more less expensive.
My name is Mohammed Ibn Chambers. I recently retired from the UN, where I was the Special Representative of UN Secretary General for West Africa and Sahel, head of UN Office for West Africa and the Sahel. But before that, I had also served as Chief Executive of ECOWAS, different capacities, first as Executive Secretary and subsequently the President of the ECOWAS Commission. I had also held position of Deputy Minister of Higher Education, Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs. And in fact, it is in my capacity as Deputy Minister of Foreign Affairs that I first had the privilege and opportunity to meet His Excellency, General Abdulsalami Abubakar, former head of state of Nigeria, who during my tenure as head of the ECOWAS in Abuja was our lead mediator. There's no doubt that he was the go-to person whenever we had a huge challenge in the region which needed very high-level mediation. And M Plaza was the venue of the negotiations among the Liberian protagonists, civil society, women, youth, various Liberian stakeholders that resulted in the Accra Comprehensive Peace Agreement of 18th August 2003. And I would say that remains, till today, the landmark mediation effort of His Excellency General Abdulsalami Abubakar, because it was this accord, this agreement, which finally brought to more than a decade-long civil war in Liberia, culminating, of course, in the end, in the election of perhaps Africa's first elected president of a country in the person of Her Excellency Helen Sirleaf Johnson.
Apart from the conflicts in the ECOWAS sub-region, many other African countries, including the Sudan and Congo, were ravaged by internal strife. Various speakers carried out an appraisal of General Abubakar's contribution to peace in these countries.
So in 2003-2004, a war erupted in Darfur because of a rebellion which was composed of two main movements. You have a liberation movement, a rebel movement called Sudan Liberation Movement, led by Minni Minawi, and another movement led, that SLM was led by Minni Minawi and Noor. Before they split, there was a split. And another movement was the JAM, Justice and Equity Movement. These two movements rebelled against the central government of Sudan. And this created a major crisis in Sudan, which further exacerbated conflict in other parts of the country. In 2007, the AU did its level best to impress upon the international community through the United Nations to agree on a joint force, which was UNAMID AU-UN hybrid mission in Darfur, which took over from the AMIS, because as you know, deploying a mission is something very, 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 very important, which implies a lot of resources, human resources, financial resources, and so on and so forth. So we succeeded at the end of 2007 to have this joint force, and General Agwai was one of the first commanders of that force in Darfur. And I had the privilege to work with them very closely regarding our efforts, common efforts at the UN and the AU to address such challenges in Darfur.
The second time I encountered General Abubakar was when he co-chaired with his colleague, President Thabo Mbeki, Sudan peace process, including Darfur track, in which I was an active participant representing my movement in those talks. There I came to know him closely. In addition to the above, I also read about his biography in Google and his distinguished career. It is against this unique background of Institute's interest for peace and General Abubakar involvement in Darfur conflict resolutions, I found it appropriate and fitting to state that, in brief manner, the case of Darfur under thematic issues.
Women are regarded as agents of peace. Their role in resolving burning crises cannot be overemphasized. General Abubakar took advantage of this crucial role of women in engaging them in the mediation process in Sudan, Congo, Niger Republic, and Liberia.
What I saw, about His Excellency's work, and also tell you what was women's contribution to the process, using myself as a case study. ECOWAS suspended Niger from this organization and nominated His Excellency to go and restore peace because there were a lot of tension in the country. So, upon his nomination, the mediator, first of all, formed a team of high qualified men. Some were military, some ambassadors to take care of the diplomatic side. And ECOWAS added some of us to also join the team. There was a representative from African Union on the same team, and also our able professor from Senegal, who also joined the team. The next thing the mediator did was to make sure he was accepted by both parties to the conflict. So he called them in Abuja here, had 2 separate meetings with the government and with the opposition. And both of them accepted the mediator to
the UN Security Resolution 1325 and the protocol on the right of women in Africa, Maputo Protocol, an instrument that promotes women participation in peace process. General Abubakar's trajectory has opened doors for women to sit at the right table at the right moment and who contribute to African peace, security, stability, and development. He has demonstrated the kind of leadership we need in Africa for people, for peace, for prosperity.
I started out after I left Pan-Abstract to work with USAID, a USAID project, and then I went on to work on an EU project and then a British Council project. And whilst working on all of these projects, there was something I observed. Each time we want to start out with these processes, we already have written documents that had been thought out by others before we go to the implementation areas or communities where we have to work.
At the end of the session, not even a question. And what do you think will be going on in the mind of the general in relation to your presentation? Well, it was well applauded.
Well, yes. I wished I had time to respond to that. Really, Chimamanda Adichie talks about the danger of a single story. And dangerous as it is those of us who are Africans that can change that narrative. Because if we don't pay attention to writing our own stories for others to read, we will continue to exist in that premise of others writing our stories and giving it their own interpretation. So this is the challenge for us, to go ahead and write our stories and also apply them to our context to change our present realities.
In all, about 50 presentations were made during the 3-day International Festschrift in honor of General Abdulsalami Abubakar. As Professor Muhammad Kuta Yahya put it in his closing remarks, many things people did not know about General Abdulsalami Abubakar had come to the open for good.
We're happy that with outcomes of these deliberations that we have had in the last 3 days, when the Festschrift was conceptualized with the volume and content that was expected, we anticipated that it was going to last not less than 1 week. But after thorough review, we concluded that we needed not less than 4 days. And in the last 4 days since arrival, it has been busy and busy and busy to this moment. Therefore, this program, we must say, we are fortunate with the exciting moment of engagement that we have had with the wonderful conversations that many people are getting to know many things they don't know about General Abdulsalami Abubakar.
I wish to give gratitude to Almighty Allah for the gift of life and the privilege to witness the Festschrift conference organized in my honor by the Institute in order to document all the mediation engagements that I have been involved in Nigeria and Africa at large so far. Let me confess, General Williams and his co-travelers, in collaboration with the director of the Institute, for the last 3 years have been battling me for this Festschrift, which I never wanted to take place. But due to the pressure, they went to everywhere where they can put pressure to ensure this is done through the collaboration and connivance of my children. I'm not sure whether my wife was involved in the collaboration, but thank goodness we had this week. I want to thank every one of you for being part of this. Indeed, the Festschrift Conference is timely. This is in the view of the fact that mediation in recent times have moved away from being led by the United Nations to regional, sub-regional, and state levels. Therefore, the proceedings of the Festschrift Conference will significantly contribute to policy and practice on how to efficiently resolve conflicts within the African continent. I would like to express my deep appreciation to the President of the Federal Republic, His Excellency General Muhammad Buhari, GCFR, for willingly consenting to give a speech at the Festschrift in my honor, despite his exigencies of office and his busy schedules. This is a clear demonstration of the leadership desire to pursue peace and contribute to the discourse in resolving African conflicts. I also want to extend my gratitude to Your Excellencies and my fellow brothers and sisters who, out of your busy schedules, have also contributed to the Festschrift Conference by sharing your experiences and lessons learned in resolving African conflicts over the years. Therefore, Your Excellencies, sharing your thoughts and wealth of experience that you have garnered over the years at this Festschrift Conference would further deepen scholarship on the nature and causes of conflicts, as well as the effectiveness of the strategies and mechanisms adopted in resolving conflicts. This is very important for building capacities of the younger generations to assume leadership and ownership of resolving conflicts based on principle of finding African solutions to Africa's problems. In addition, it will strengthen the mechanisms of resolving conflicts at the sub-regional and continental levels by building on lessons learned and addressing existing gaps prevalent in the mechanism of resolving conflicts in the continent. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, there is no gainsaying that one of the major challenges confronting Africa is the resolution of conflicts which have become a recurring decimal of our political landscape as a continent. According to the Dalai Lama the 14th, and I quote, "Peace does not mean an absence of conflicts. Differences will always be there. Peace means solving these differences through peaceful means, through dialogue, knowledge, and through humane ways," unquote. Finally, I am deeply grateful for the supportive role of my family, my children, and wait for it, my grandchildren also, who keep me busy always. All of the roles they have played over the years in all my engagements. I wish to deeply appreciate, you know whom, my amiable wife, Honorable Justice Abdulsalami Abubakar, for keeping the home front peaceful and working behind the scenes for my sex. Darling, I can't thank you enough. Without realizing the home front, my role as an elder statesman or as a mediator would have been fraught with many difficulties. But thank you, you made it very easy for me. I appreciate it. Your Excellencies, may peace reign in our country, in our ECOWAS sub-region, our continent, Africa, and indeed the world. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. Shukran.
Participants also took time off to visit ECOWAS Secretariat and other tourist attractions that make Abuja one of the fast developing cities in the world. At the end of the day, all the participants went home with the consensus that General Abdulsalami Abubakar's willingness to hand over to civilian government in Nigeria and his mediatory role in the various conflicts in Africa have enhanced his reputation as a man of integrity, a peacemaker, bridge builder, mediator, and international statesman. It is hoped that other African leaders will emulate this enduring legacy as a means of putting an end to the lingering cases of conflicts, strife, and hunger ravaging the African continent.
He's a member.
The event has come and gone,
Yes.
but the memory remains. The man in question is everybody's general. And you have been seen at the center of everything. What's your impression, sir?
Well, for me, it's so gratifying that we have had a very successful event, Festschrift in honor of General Abdulsalami Abubakar. And you can see this international delegation from across Africa that have come to honor him. We have come on a side tour of some of the legacies of Nigeria. The ECOWAS Secretariat is a major landmark feature of in Abuja city. And Abdulsalam symbolizes most of the work he has done for ECOWAS, for African Union, for United Nations. Is like we should come here and see. These are some of his laudable activities that should be commended. And from the proceedings, so far so good. Everybody continue to sing praises of what he has done to humanity in bringing peace through his mediatory skills. That is uncommon, and for some of us that are associated with him, we feel very proud that many people are now beginning to see who General Abdulsalami is better, and because he has continued to shy away from publicity, from even engaging on those matters, he has become an unsung hero. But now, with this Festschrift and the documentation that will come out of it, his name will hit the global award as a peacemaker, as a mediator par excellence, and that indeed you cannot miss it. That is a bridge builder with a man with uncommon patience and so on. So we feel great that we have to be associated with the success story of this Festschrift.
Yes, sir, from the by the quality of people participating and happily participating, what do you have to say to the rest of the world?
Well, you see, the truth is that leaders across the world, and as I said in my submission, and that I said we are confronted with leadership deficit in the African continent, where people are no more honorable in terms of leadership. Abdulsalami had demonstrated honor in leadership, honor out of leadership, and people begin to trust him because they feel he's a man of his word with what he has demonstrated in Nigeria. So Abdulsalami is a case study for leaders in the African continent. And I think leaders should learn from him. His humility, his sincerity of purpose is legendary. And I think that is what leaders need to make Africa a great continent where there will be minimal conflict and the role of mediation will be reduced. And that goes to talk about good governance, about keeping promises, about rule of law and constitutionality.
once all those things are in place, nobody is going to scramble to go in to become a rebel to want power by all means. But I think those are the fallouts. So we are very glad that he has become a good example in the African continent.